Exclusive footage of the liberation of the Kursk region from a first-person perspective. This battle took place in the settlement area of Zeleny Shlyak. Two armored vehicle crews from the 137th Guards Airborne Regiment successfully delivered assault troops directly to the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces in a wooded area, allowing them to storm and capture the position immediately. On the way, Ukrainian forces tried to stop the vehicles with all the weapons at their disposal, but failed. The airborne troops stood firm under fire and successfully completed their combat mission. The Zaporizhzhia direction. Against the background of the declared truce by the Russian Federation, the Ukrainians decided to lay down their arms and surrender. More and more AFU fighters are choosing life and brotherhood. Russia stands for peace and does not kill those who make the right choice.
Лево покрути еще. Вот они стоят.
Это которые выезжали,
Да.
здесь уже. Прикольно, вот это что.
А тут и выезжали, заезжали, все те пытались, которые проехать техникой сюда на Суджу.
The Kiev authorities declared the escape from Sudzha part of the negotiation process. The Zelensky administration described the defeat of the Sudzha garrison of the armed forces of Ukraine and the escape along bullet-riddled roads, now clogged with burnt-out equipment and bodies of militants, as a withdrawal of troops, which was suddenly called part of the negotiation process. They forgot to tell the militants running under the shells. The Kiev authorities declared the escape from Sudzha part of the negotiation process. The Zelensky administration described the defeat of the Sudzha garrison of the armed forces of Ukraine and the escape along bullet-riddled roads, now clogged with burnt-out equipment and bodies of militants, as a withdrawal of troops, which was suddenly called part of the negotiation process. They forged footage of the destruction of a group of enemy UAV operators in Novokrenka settlement, Max Pro armored car in the area of Preobrazhenka settlement, enemy pickup truck in the village of Krasnoarmysk, Leopard 2 tank in the village of Krasnoarmyskat to tell the militants running under the shells. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue the special military operation. Units of the Sever Group of Forces improved the situation along the front line. Russian troops inflicted fire damage on manpower and hardware of one mechanized brigade, one air assault brigade close to Yastrебnoye, Andriivka, and Sadki, Sumy region. In Kharkov direction, Russian troops hit units of one mechanized brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and four territorial defense brigades near Okop, Yudy, Okremovka, Zelenoy, and Volchansk, Kharkov region. The enemy losses were up to 235 troops, 2 armored fighting vehicles, 6 motor vehicles, and 7 field artillery guns, including one U.S.-made 155 mm M777 howitzer. 2 ammunition depots were destroyed. Units of the Zapad group of forces took more advantageous lines and positions. Russian troops launched attacks on formations of 2 mechanized brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, 1 Territorial Defense Brigade, and 1 National Guard Brigade near Shikovka, Novosergievka, Sobolevka, Novaya Krugliakovka, Kupiansk, Kharkov region, Karpovka, and Zelenaya Dolina, Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy losses were more than 220 troops, 1 U.S.-made HMMWV armored fighting vehicle, 11 motor vehicles, and 1 artillery gun. 3 electronic warfare stations and 3 ammunition depots were destroyed. As a result of active and decisive actions, units of the Yug group of forces liberated Dylievka, Donetsk People's Republic. Russian troops inflicted losses on manpower and hardware of 2 mechanized brigades, 1 airmobile brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and 1 territorial defense brigade near Sherbanovka, Serebryanka, Pretikino, Belyagora, Vyemka, Petrovka, Seversk, Vasyukovka, Tikhonovka, Zaria, and Chasov Yar, Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy losses were more than 190 troops, 1 U.S.-made M113 armored personnel carrier, 4 motor vehicles, and 1 electronic warfare station. Units of the Central Group of Forces continued advancing into the depth of enemy defenses. Russian troops hit formations of 4 mechanized brigades, 1 air assault brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, 1 Marine brigade, and 2 National Guard brigades near Udagnoy, Alexievka, Dmitrov, Moravka, Petrovskogo, Krasnoarmeysk, Novosergievka, Dagnoy, and Zeleny Kut, Donetsk People's Republic. The AFU losses were up to 230 troops, 6 armored fighting vehicles, including 1 HMMWV armored fighting vehicle, 1 Bradley infantry fighting vehicle, and 1 U.S.-made M113 armored personnel carrier. 8 pickup trucks and 3 field artillery guns were neutralized. The Vostok Group's units took more favorable lines and positions. Russian troops inflicted fire damage on manpower and hardware of 1 mechanized brigade of the AFU and 2 territorial defense brigades near Yalta, Zaporozhye, Fedorovka, Shevchenko, Donetsk People's Republic, Malyevka, Dnipropetrovsk region, and Guliapol, Zaporozhye region. The AFU losses were up to 190 troops, 1 tank, 2 armored fighting vehicles, 2 motor vehicles, 3 artillery guns, and 1 electronic warfare station. Units of the Dnieper Group of Forces inflicted losses on formations of 1 mechanized brigade, 2 coastal defense brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and 1 territorial defense brigade near Maly Sherbaki, Zaporozhye region, Lvovo, Antonovka, Kizimys, Novaya Kakovka, Dniprovskoy, Kherson region, and Kherson. The enemy losses were up to 60 troops, 10 motor vehicles, 5 electronic warfare stations, and 2 ammunition depots. Operational tactical aviation, attack UAVs, missile troops, and artillery of the Russian groups of forces inflicted fire damage on the port infrastructure of Ukraine, assembly workshops and depots of unmanned aerial vehicles, as well as temporary deployment areas of AFU units and foreign mercenaries in 142 districts. Air defense systems shot down 2 U.S.-made JDAM aerial bombs, 1 Neptune long-range missile, and 168 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, the enemy lost 663 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 65,137 unmanned aerial vehicles, 611 anti-aircraft missile systems, 24,029 tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, 1,572 MLRS combat vehicles, 26,545 field artillery guns and mortars, 37,225 units of support military vehicles have been neutralized.